Before we get started, spoilers ahead. At this point, many of us have finished Final Fantasy XVI, and regardless of your opinion on its standing within the series, it's hard to argue it wasn't an engaging story from beginning to end. Even with subquests slowing things down, I was always excited to get to the next stage of the narrative because the characters were so engaging, and it was easy to get deeply invested in Clive's mission to free the people of the world to carve their own paths through life. Of course, as an old school Final Fantasy nerd, I loved all the little nods along the way to the history of the series. Hell, Clive even says the thing.
The only fantasy here is yours, and we shall be its final witness.
But there was something that took me by surprise when we destroyed our first crystal that I think was more than a simple nod to the series' history. When we reached the Mother Crystal in Drake's Head, we're met with resistance in the form of Typhon, some kind of guardian whose physical appearance is reminiscent of our main antagonist Ultima, and is essentially a second Icon of Lightning, a foil to Cid's Rama. This is odd, as the tapestries we find depict only the icons we know across the land of Valisthea: Garuda, Rama, Titan, Bahamut, Shiva, and Odin, along with it being later revealed to be Ultimalius, who's meant to represent both the Phoenix and Ifrit. Leviathan is also shown here, but there are already plenty of theories around what's going on with that icon. So, we have one icon associated with each form of magic, with only fire having two, due to Clive inheriting Ifrit, as he was meant to be Ultima's human vessel. That raises the question, how do we have two icons of lightning? I think I might have an answer to this question. In the history of Final Fantasy, there have been multiple forms of summons, all given different names based on the various worlds they've come from. In Final Fantasy VI, our summons were called Espers. In Final Fantasy VIII, they were called Guardian Forces. Now in 16, we have the term Icon. Some summons are mainstays, like Ifrit, Shiva, and Bahamut, names you'll see in almost every game of the series. But there are other, lesser-known summons that share the same elements between games. For instance, Titan is not the only Earth summon across the Final Fantasy series. We've also seen Hexatoncher, whose name I'm probably butchering, from Final Fantasy XIII, and Hashmal from Final Fantasy XII. Typhon himself is seen in Final Fantasy VII, and even though his materia is labeled as wind, his attack does utilize lightning alongside other elements. This means that for every elemental icon within Final Fantasy XVI, you can easily find another summonable creature with that same element across the history of Final Fantasy. Now, let's consider that Ultima's plan is to reunite himself with his brothers, vestiges of power locked inside of each Mother Crystal, and take his new vessel, Mythos, to cast his ultimate spell. If the brother we fought in the Drake's Head Mother Crystal wielded the power of an icon of lightning the world had never seen, Typhon, it stands to reason that each of his brothers had locked within them another icon that could wield the magic associated with their land's dominant. This point can actually be driven home further, as when we fight Ultimalius, he has access to the powers of every icon, even though they currently reside within Clive, and Ultima has yet to claim him as his vessel. These elemental powers must have come from somewhere. It stands to reason he gained them when fusing with his missing pieces. If we also consider that we face off against his previous Ifrit shell, we believe it further implies that all of these powers once existed within other icons before humanity was granted their own. We know that Ultima and his people came to the land of Valisthea when their own continent was beset by the Blight. They created the Mother Crystals as a way to suck ether from the Earth itself, in order to one day cast their spell that would provide them with a perfect world, untouched by the Blight. The icons are shattered aspects of Ultima's power that were granted to humanity in order to test his perfect vessel. But it would make sense that Ultima and his brethren would not leave themselves helpless by giving all of their power over to humanity. If the icons granted to humanity are shaped by their human hosts, then each one of Ultima's people likely has their own icon that is shaped by their race. This would explain why Typhon does not take the form of a creature known to humanity, like the Phoenix, a bird, Bahamut, a dragon, or some of the other icons who look like human beings. Typhon looks alien, much like Ultima's race itself, so each of their icons would likely reflect their race in a similar way. All of this leads me to believe that each icon of humanity has a foil in the form of an icon based on Ultima's race. The Phoenix has Ifrit, Rama has Typhon, and we have some idea of who the other icon's foils could possibly be. Shiva is a mainstay of the series, and is typically the only ice summon found in Final Fantasy games. But in Final Fantasy XII Revenant Wings, we do see Mateus the Corrupt. Titan is also the most common earth summon, but Hashmal from Final Fantasy XII does share Titan's main attack. Garuda has 2 different previous summons that could work in her place: Sildra from Final Fantasy V, and Pandemona from Final Fantasy VIII. Between the two, we believe Pandemona is the better option due to its alien-like appearance. Bahamut has had multiple incarnations throughout Final Fantasy, and his foil could easily be Neo Bahamut or Bahamut Zero, but given that he utilizes light magic in Final Fantasy XVI, we think a better option would probably be either Carbuncle or Alexander. Alexander would definitely fit in with the world of Final Fantasy XVI. For Leviathan, the icon we never get to meet in-game, we could see Ultima's brother using Bismarck from Final Fantasy VI. Odin would be an interesting case because he utilizes darkness for his magic, and there haven't been that many darkness summons across the Final Fantasy series. 2 do come to mind though: Doomtrain and Hades. Personally, I believe either of these could work. But with that said, now we have a foil for every icon within Final Fantasy XVI. While we have no idea what the future may hold for Final Fantasy XVI in terms of DLC, especially because the director of the game claims they didn't previously have any planned, I think it would be amazing to have the chance to fight even more icons. It would make sense that Typhon was only one of many icons never meant to be wielded by humanity, clung to by Ultima and his brothers, so they still had the power to defend themselves should anyone try to destroy their crystals before they were ready. With this knowledge, we see the opportunity for so many more intense battles against the vestiges of Ultima's power, even if only in non-canon gauntlet-style fights. So what do you think of this theory surrounding the mysterious icon Typhon, and the potential power each of Ultima's brothers may have wielded? Will this strange bit of lore ever be expanded upon, or did they just want to throw a cool boss fight into this portion of the game and not consider the implications? What do you think future Final Fantasy XVI DLC will focus on? Personally, I believe Leviathan has to be their first choice, but who knows where their minds are. Thanks for joining us, and keep an eye out for more Final Fantasy content from the team at Square Table Gaming.